So, Danny Soltau, the German. We're here today with Danny, and we are in Dirty Water Fly Co. in downtown, is it called Old Downtown?
Just Downtown Plano.
Downtown Plano.
Yep.
It's kind of old though over here, which is really cool. It's been revived.
Yep.
It's pretty fantastic. I don't know exactly what they do for events and stuff, but it looks like a happening place. For somebody that doesn't know your history, can you tell me the history of? I mean, you've been fly fishing longer than I have, and I'm a lot older than you.
I've been at it a while. I was born down here in Texas and grew up in the Seattle area where I really got into fly fishing, and moved to Montana and spent 15 seasons in Montana, where I worked at different outfitters there and fly shops. And I started working at a fly shop in Seattle at Creekside Angling in high school. And then when I had the opportunity to move east to Montana, to the promised land, I did. And I worked at the River's Edge in Bozeman, which is a fantastic operation. And started Dirty Water Fly Co. in 2012 as a commercial tying company, and we source some components as well as do the commercial tying, which we still do commercial tying for shops both here locally and out west.
Well, you kind of skipped over into this, but like how many clients do you have on just your fly tying? It seems like whenever I come here, you're working.
Well, we've phased into a lot more custom tying and less wholesale tying. We still have a number of shops who order flies from us, but are also more so on a custom level too. And I focus primarily tying flies for the shop here for our fly racks. And that's keeps me busy for sure. And I'm doing custom stuff, anything from trout to tigerfish to tarpon, tying tarpon flies and tying musky flies.
So you're shipping all over?
All over the place. Yeah, absolutely. And still diving in and learning new techniques and concepts and applying those to flies I've been working on for 20 years.
Well, my interpretation when I came into your store, and when did you open the doors here?
April 9th. Last year, 2022.
Okay. This location or the other?
At our other location. We've been in this location since March this year.
So you relocated pretty quick, man. I didn't.
Yeah, I had an opportunity to upgrade, go from a hole in the wall to a slightly larger hole in the wall, and took that. We have the same landlord, so it was seamless, and they accommodated us. And now we have awesome street front on one of the busier streets in Plano.
Yeah,
and we have parking in front and all the good things, and increased by about 25% in floor space. So we were able to expand our fly tying area and tackle, which are certainly the strong points of the fly shop, would be fly tying from the most basic stuff to more advanced intricate stuff, and then putting those flies to work via our killer tackle, fly lines, leaders, tippet, rods, reels. That's the core of the shop, is what you need to actually go fishing, from the first thread wraps you make on a hook for fly tying to getting your flies in the water.
Right, gotcha. Well, that's that's what I've noticed about you right away, is the fly tying. You're fly tying centric as far as your community. It seems like everybody kind of gravitates to your fly tying events. Great turnout.
Absolutely.
And it looks like you have a good formula for how you deal with that, because you've got plenty of materials here, man.
Yeah, we kind of, everybody's welcome here. We have a tying bench. We can get 4, 5, or 6 tires at the bench, and on the weekends we've got football on or whatever it is, and we've got, good time. You can tie whatever you want. You can take lessons. We do classes, and that's how we approach both the fly fishing and tying elements. Is everybody's welcome, and we do classes and lessons for both and try to accommodate and welcome everybody into the shop.
Well, why Plano, Texas?
Well, that took a lot of turns to end up in Plano, Texas, for sure. Relocating back to Texas 2 years ago, I knew we could take the company to a different level operating in Texas versus Montana, where there's multiple fly shops in every town, even little towns. And I love bass fishing. That's definitely the core of our shop. However, Texas has maybe the most diverse fisheries in the country. Some of them for sure. You got a few states that kind of rival, but we've got, one customer comes in and they're fishing a 2-weight for bluegill, and the next guy comes in, might be running a 12-weight for alligator gar or tarpon, or somebody going around the world, and then everything in between. And that's been a really cool element to the shop is, one, all kinds of anglers are coming in, and two, you never know what you're going to get, and it's pretty cool. The diverse fisheries are what makes that work, and then we have 2 big airports in DFW, so wherever you want to go in the world, you hop on a plane, you're there about as fast as you could from anywhere.
So basically you're local and you travel well.
Yeah, I mean, it's cool. That's a core of the shop. We have, some soft goods and whatnot, but for the most part, it's definitely fly tackle and fly tying.
So if there's any one name that surprised you in popularity, whether it's Galvan Reels or I love those reels.
Yeah. I mean, what a product, what a company. One of our favorite brands to work with for sure is Galvan. And we're in fly fishing. You don't get a lot of, in other industries outside of fly fishing, you don't get a lot of opportunities to work with family-run businesses and manufacturing and stateside products, right? Stuff that's made in the U.S. and Galvan is the example of that. Just awesome people, awesome product made in California, and we try to carry as much American-made stuff as possible. Our flies are all tied in the States. You're not gonna. Now we have a little different fly selection than most shops, but everything is either tied here in Texas or Montana, Washington, Massachusetts, and we try to embody that. And we do carry some imported goods that allow anglers with a little bit tighter budget to get out on the water and have really good stuff. Echo is kind of our front runner in that category, and you're looking at super high performance for a great price. But as far as products that really surprised me, Galvan, I felt really good about Galvan. Just working with them for 20 years and selling them for 20 years. I knew what quality they were. I've used them extensively. And they're not a big presence down here. And I think they really have jived with our customers and client base around DFW. Couldn't have gone better there. And we love working with them. We're always on the phone with them, getting custom reels and getting this and that. And, they're the best of the best.
Yeah. So if I came in, I'm just going to throw this at you. If I came in, I'm a local fly guy. I want to hit the ponds. I want to maybe hit the lake or edge of a lake or maybe a river for bass. What dozen flies would you send me away with? Not dozen different flies, just 3 or 4 of each of whatever.
Totally, and bass fishing's cool like that. Other than attacking like big water stuff where you might be prone to loading up on a bunch of boxes, where you're kind of trying to emulate what conventional tackle bass anglers are doing. When you're pond hopping and even fishing big water, you can get away with 3 or 4 flies. And that's pretty cool about bass fishing. It's not something where you need to have every life cycle of an insect covered for daily operations. And so I'm thinking my roots in fishing, a lot of that is in conventional bass fishing. So you think about top water, just subsurface, down in the water column, and then fishing the bottom. With the fly angler, you're really focusing on those top parts of the water column for the most part. And so I'm thinking, do we have top water? Do we have poppers and more obnoxious top water covered? And then something that's a little bit more quiet that walks in the surface, like the Stripper's Delight.
What is that?
It's our most popular design. It's a bait fish pattern that floats and fishes in the surface film. It's got an aerodynamic head.
We'll get a look at that.
Yeah,
that sounds cool.
That's a killer bug, and we do those, and it's a fly that catches tarpon or muskie, you name it. Like, it's a fly that you can adapt to just about anything. And then going down in the water column, fishing weighted jig minnows, like our Jewel Thief is one of our most popular bugs, and can be adapted to any depth in the water column. To fishing, we do have some crawfish stuff that's designed to fish on the bottom for those looking for a challenge. Fishing finesse on the bottom is definitely a challenge with a fly rod, but you practice it and you can get really good at it, and that's how you tap into the buffalo fishing and carp fishing in certain areas. That's one of the many avenues of fly fishing in Texas.
Well, and you've been open not real long. I thought you were open longer than that even. So it just feels that way when you come in here. I can feel your experience, you know.
Well, I started in 2004 at Creekside in Seattle, and it's one of the finest fly shops in the country. I learned from the best. Everybody I worked with there, I absorbed everything, but it took pride in learning about river systems that, some of which I've never fished and may never fish. But that's what the cool thing about the fly angling and fly fishing is the depth and the places that it takes you. Even if you don't go, you might just dig into researching a fishing trip, and you're like, wow, I did not know that existed in Central Arkansas or whatever it may be. And then like Texas has just layer after layer of fisheries that you do a little exploring. What might be down the street is awesome, and then you might go on an overnight float trip on a remote river in West Texas. Who knows, right? And learning about that and learning about the different fisheries, and then the fly design thing, I think, doing so much fly tying and tying flies for places I've never been, and then getting the feedback from the person who actually went, that's priceless. That's how you build flies. I don't really see a fly pattern as ever being finished. I might send it out and somebody might take it around the world.
That's an artist speaking right there.
Right.
Just like photography and the things I do, I'm never satisfied. And
you never know. A new material could come out, or you might just have all of a sudden eliminate a step but accomplish the same goal, and that allows you to totally change how you're building that fly. And some of my designs, like the Stripper's Delight, I was first tying in 04 and 05, and they've come a long way. The original one, still really good. But what they have now is I've been able to expand the categories that it can go to, from a big game fly in saltwater or the jungle to an ultralight fly fishing ponds around the Metroplex, or trout fishing up in Montana or wherever.
So I'm just going to reach out to my guys right now. We'll put a link to that in the description. We want to see some more of that. That's cool. That was way cool. Well, what's been your biggest surprise in this brief time of being open?
My biggest surprise, I would just say, and I don't know if it's necessarily a surprise, but it's been very pleasant to get to know the community in DFW of fly tyers and fly anglers. Maybe as diverse as you could imagine. Living in Bozeman in southwest Montana for 15 seasons, you're at ground zero for basically the whole fly fishing industry, especially in the trout world. But in reality, it's ground zero for just about everything. What happens there is what goes out to the rest of the world. But it is a trout fishing mecca for sure.
I just sent. That's where I sent that fly mat. I was telling you, I sent the 3 of them to Bozeman.
So
this week.
And it's per capita, tons of fly anglers, but fishing's very good. So I don't think there's the camaraderie across such a community. Like in Texas, we have the FFI clubs are very prevalent and involved, and there's all those things add up to a really tight-knit community that spans a massive state, and that's been really cool. Mm-hmm. And the amount of fly tyers and world-class fly tyers that we have just in DFW that may end up walking in and tying flies for an hour at the bench has been just awesome. I've learned and picked up on things that I've never heard of or seen before, and some of it's complicated, some of it's just simple, and it's cool having learning more and more.
Yeah, as I taught photography, that was one thing I really appreciated, and I taught through the digital revolution, and the things I learned from my students, it paid off. It paid me, paid back.
Yeah, and I think teaching folks from all walks of life fly tying and fly fishing, you never know how a student is going to react to a technique you're teaching them. And they may absorb it right away and fire something back at you that you never thought of, even in 20 plus seasons, and you're like, oh, well, probably should have thought of that a while ago. And then you have your more challenging situations where you got to work through the hurdles, and then you see that person click and then go out and have a great time on the water, and that's awesome too.
Yeah, it is. Well, what are you forecasting? As a business person also, besides being a fly fisherman, fly tyer, shop owner, looking out, how has the big picture of the fly fishing economy looked in 2023, and what do you think's coming up in 24?
Well, I think we are, we've seen a few booms over the decades in fly fishing, right? The movie River Runs Through It comes out, everything goes nuts, everybody wants to be Brad Pitt, fly fishing and all that. We've seen kind of a secondary wave of that with an epidemic pushing people to go outside and spend more time outside for their hobbies. That increased fly fishing traffic tremendously. A lot of people who had been kind of thinking about learning how to fly fish or tie flies or something, all of a sudden we're like, you know what, that'll be a great time to do it. And then you've got, places like Montana and Wyoming have been in television shows where like the exposure to places like that, in Colorado, and you're
talking the whole Yellowstone phenomenon.
Absolutely. I think there's been a lot more light shed upon sports and activities like fly fishing. And I think this, like 2023, we've seen the COVID push settle out and stabilize. And I think, talking to shop owners around the country, they've noticed that too. And I think while maybe their numbers aren't as crazy as they were in certain categories, I know that they're appreciative of it stabilizing a little bit because it allows the rest of the industry to get caught up.
So you're talking in reference to supply chain.
Supply, and not necessarily being able to, we're so, like in fly fishing and fly shops, they're a community, like a great fly shop you should always feel welcome going into and just hanging out and having coffee or bring, whatever it is. Like that's the mark of a great shop, is being very welcome. And that part of that is, you got to be able to take care of the guy who you're outfitting to go on this crazy trip, but also talk to the locals all at the same time. And when you start when you get overloaded and you can't get gear, you can't get the fly lines or the leaders or the tippet or the rods or the reels that your customers need, it puts a lot of pressure on the, in your waiting the whole day. It puts a lot of pressure on the shop and the employees and the owners. And we just saw a huge boom where supply was far greater, or was far less than the demand. And we were having, the supply chain, we've all heard that 1,000 times in the last couple of years. Supply chain's caught up. The brands and the manufacturers have streamlined things in certain categories where maybe they were lacking before. And, now I think somebody coming into fly fishing right now couldn't come in at a better time. You've got killer gear for... And
the prices didn't seem to burst.
Not at all. And I think, has the high-end stuff gone up a little bit? Yes, but the high-end stuff's been going up and up and up for 25 years. And what I have seen is that the stuff at the entry level has gotten so much better than it was even 10 years ago.
That's what I noticed too.
I mean,
I bought a Reddington combo and I was like, what is this, man?
What $400 or $500
Yeah.
can get for you in today's world is like an ultra high performance fly fishing setup that can go and do anything in the world. Can you spend a fortune? Absolutely. But for a freshwater combo, you can get a rod for a combo for a couple $100 that rivals performance of a combo well over 1,000. So people coming into the game of fly fishing can walk right out there with high performance gear. And that's, something that, you always had to kind of take a hit on something like in the past, getting somebody set up and okay, they're going to outgrow this pretty quick. Yeah. Now that's not the case.
Yeah. I agree. And my philosophy was grow into it. Don't get something you grow into.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you get tired of it or whatever, you're going to sell it anyway. So you might get more recovery of your money if you sell a better item than something that was bottom end.
Yeah, and I mean it's good. Our fly lines in the industry, nothing's come farther in the last 10 years than fly line technology. You got basically a line designed for whatever you want to do, or a line designed to do it all.
Plus the coatings. I mean, the coatings
durability has just gone through the roof. Yeah. So that's something that just being in the industry since 2004 and in streamer fishing, which is my favorite thing and definitely my Swan Song, we were piecing together streamer setups with lines from all types of different industries. You know, whether it's striped bass in the Northeast, where a lot of big fly design took place over the last 50 years, to tropical tarpon lines and trying to make those fish in other climates, and you know, and now it's like, oh, you want to go through
that line? You got
you want to go through big flies? Well, what
Clear
kind of
intermediate?
temperature?
Yeah.
Like sink rate. Oh yeah, we got that too. You know, and
Yep.
and it's.
I think it's pretty fantastic because not only that, it maximizes the performance of the rod so well. You can just dial a rod in if it fits your cast to begin with.
Absolutely, and and I mean the options, and we do so many lessons and rod fittings on the water where you know, if somebody wants to come in and dedicate an hour or two, I'm all about it. You know, let's go out there, let's get on the water, let's go out early in the morning, let's see what you got, and then we can either dial you in for the system you already have or fit you into a better system. And I think that's something like that, you know, if you're going to get into it, do yourself a favor, try to get a hands-on experience. All of our rod and reel combo purchases include an on-the-water lesson, whether it's the $189 Echo combo or a Winston Galvan combo. We're going to get you out there, and you might want to learn a specific technique. You might be going bone fishing, or you might be doing something, you know, bizarre, and you want to learn a next level technique, or it's the first time you've ever cast a fly rod. That's been a really good thing for us, and we've gotten a lot of people into it, going in a little bit more, you know, channeled direction than they would have otherwise.
Right, wouldn't have been focused. Well, tell me about your personal life. I know there's an update there.
Yep, got a little mini me, and it's just been awesome. Ronaldo was born on June 7th, and he's been working the shop, runs the shop pretty much
I could tell.
on a daily basis. So that's been great, coming home to that every day and getting out of the shop, and he'll probably come strolling in here any minute now with Mama. But yeah, healthy little guy, can't ask for anything more there. It's been great.
That's awesome, dude. Well, I think that covers it pretty well, man. I appreciate you talking to me.
Yeah, no, it's great having you in the shop.
So tell me what, just give us the address.
Yeah, here we are, downtown Plano. Technically it's 1410 K Avenue, Suite 1103. However, we are right on 14th Street, right across from Urban Seafood. And this is a wonderful area. If you're coming from afar, come into some of the restaurants, have lunch, have dinner. Stop by the shop, set up a tying lesson, come down, tie flies at the bench. But we have world-class food within a 5-minute walk and all kinds of good stuff. It's a historic district, so it's nice to get that in a sprawling metropolis that is DFW. You can stop here in downtown Plano and experience some pretty cool stuff.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Shannon.
Yep, sure thing.